What's up, digital artists? My name is Jesus Conde, and today we're going to be doing this painting. It's kind of like a cartoony kind of thing with a house at one side of a waterfall, and that's what we're going to be doing. And let's just start with that. The first thing that I'm doing right now is just making a small sketch. As you can see, I have in my top left, I have a picture of a house on a waterfall, and I wanted to kind of try that, but at some point I wanted to try some kind of a cartoony feeling, so things start to change, and you will see all that. It's a bit sped up the video, but I think you can see the process very well, and we're gonna be talking about all the decisions that I'm making in all the steps that I'm doing. As you can see, I'm not starting using black. That's something I've been doing lately, just to test how everything looks at the end. I think it really helps to avoid having really dark shadows or dark colors on your painting, because later you're gonna put your colors on top. But if you have a very dark sketch, maybe some of that is going to be, maybe you will keep some of that by the end. You notice obviously that I'm using my perspective grid that I always use. I promised I was going to record a video. I did record a video of how I do it, but I thought the process was so complex and so weird. I mean, it's pretty easy, but just the fact that you have to learn how to use 3ds Max just to do it, for me makes no sense. So I will upload the video eventually, but right now what you can do is just download the PSD file from the link in the description and use mine, so until I can send you more, or I can upload the video. Because the easiest thing is just to have everything done already, right? So I could do like few of them and give it to you guys, instead of you having to do it yourself and download a program that is like 4 gigabytes just to do a perspective grid. So anyway, I'm starting to put some colors in. I'm trying to grab well, I'm not using the eyedropper or anything, but I'm trying to match the colors of the picture on my painting, but I'm trying to exaggerate them a little bit. For example, the colors in the water, I tried to make them a little bit more saturated, a little bit more cartoony feeling, and right now I'm just trying to slowly build my image. Don't fill everything with color at once, because you can make mistakes. You want to have everything be changeable as possible at this part of the process, which is just starting. You can see that I just made everything smaller because I felt that the composition was a bit too how do I say that, it was a bit too, everything was taking too much space on the image, so I wanted everything to go just a little bit smaller, or maybe have more sense of perspective, like everything is farther away and not so on the nose. And now I'm starting to change things a bit. Like I got the idea from the photo of having a house in there, but that's not what I want to do at the end. At the end I want to have something that is mine and kind of like my own vision of that thing. So right now I thought the house was too flat just in there, so I'm doing some changes on the proportions, and you can see that I use the transformation tools that you can find in any Photoshop. Well, actually, the warp tool, you cannot find it in, I think, under CS5, I guess. But if you're using the latest version of Photoshop, you will find. And I just wanted to have some curve to the house, and now I'm adding a tree in there to help that kind of like a feeling of something being very very homey, like very comfortable to live. Like you wouldn't get 100% sunlight all the time, because you have a tree just near you that gives you shadow, and it's kind of like a pretty kind of place. Even though the house is just like on top of a hill, and if you want to get out, you basically just have to go out with a small stair, vertical stair. But anyway, I thought it was really cool to have a tree in there, so I did that. And now I'm trying to feel some colors of the image, but thinking already about the lighting that I'm going to have. I want to have something very contrasty. I don't know if that's a word. To have a lot of contrast between shadow and light. And you will see later I apply some kind of trick with multiply. This is really helping me to get that shadow, those shadow feeling on the image, and make everything a little bit bluer and erase just the parts where the light it's on, to get some kind of a nice contrast between light and shadow. So that's a really cool trick, and you will see when I apply that. So right now what I'm doing is trying to put everything a little bit bluer, and now I'm erasing what I don't want to be so much blue. So basically the blue parts are shadow, and everything that I erased in there are not shadows. So that's something that for me is really cool, because it helps me see the difference between that light and shadow, and where the shadow is, I'm going to have blue specular lighting, which is coming from the sky, and is going to be reflected on the surfaces. So later we're going to be painting rocks with some blue on them, and some of the trees will have a little bit of just a tiny bit of blue in them, like to reflecting the sky. And it's gonna be really helpful to make the image come alive, and you can see like a lot of contrast between light and shadow, and it's gonna be really colorful. Not because you have a lot of shadow in the image, it doesn't have to be colorful. So that's what I'm trying to go for here with the lighting. You will see that at the end. I'm gonna have the parts in shadow are going to be really, they're gonna have a lot of blue, some purple in there too. And right now I'm just trying to leave everything, because I record this like in different steps, and I try to do it as much as I can in just one pass, but it's very difficult with all the stuff that I have to do. So what I do is I put a timer, maybe 1 hour, maybe like for example the last recording that I did of this was like 20 minutes. So it doesn't have to be like all the time. You don't have to work 3 or 4 hours straight, because I record this just like tiny bits on the week and on the weekends. So at the end you kind of see a well done painting because of that, because I'm doing everything at once, and I can actually rest my eyes. So right now what I did was apply a blending mode that only replaces the dark parts, and on those dark parts I put it blue. So that's really helpful, because already you can see that every place that was shadow before, I have blue now. And now I'm applying a blue color. On those shadow parts, and you can see that those blues are pointing up. And well, right now the ones I'm doing that I'm pointing down, because that's reflection from the water, right? But that's a very light blue. The ones I'm talking about are the ones that are on the sides where the shadows are. I'm putting some blue color in there, because that's what you get in real life. Some people don't notice that, but that's what you get in real life. You get like this bluish color where the shadows are, because of the reflection of the sky, and also the lighting that the sky is giving you. Sometimes it's really hard to notice that. If the sky is cloudy, you wouldn't get that too much, because it will actually be more white. The lighting will be more like white without any shadows. Like the shadows will be so soft that you will think that there are no shadows at all. but there actually are shadows in there. You can notice when you see like under the cars there's a shadow, even if it's cloudy. The only difference is that the shadow is really open and is really soft. But if you have a hard sunlight, what you get is really bright. I wouldn't say yellowish kind of lighting, but it could be just a tiny bit. And then in the shadow you will see this kind of like a blue color. The easiest way to notice this is if you're walking on if you have a walking path and it's like gray or I'm not sure if white, but gray walking path, you can see the blue color on the shadow. That's the most easiest way to notice that blue color. But in theory, like everything that you see will have this blue tone, but the only parts that won't have this bluish color will be everything that is touched by direct sunlight. So everything that is on shadow and it's outside should have this bluish color. Obviously, if you're inside of the house, you wouldn't see that because you are affected by the bounces of light that are happening inside the house, and the lighting inside the house, which is most of the times is artificial. But yeah, you will have this bluish color outside. All right. Okay, so that means that some of the greens have to be a little bit bluish, and the leaves, because the leaves are kind of like reflective, you will get this kind of like bluish leaves, but it's only like the reflection of the sky. It's not like they are blue. Just the reflection of the sky is gonna be kind of bluish, and when you get the direct sunlight on the leaves, you will have a more kind of like a yellowish kind of a leaf. Obviously, you have other factors. If you're lighting the leaves from behind, you will have surface scattering, which is like the light going through an object. So the leaf, you can see when this happens with the leaves on the trees, you can see that they are very, very bright, greenish, like kind of like with yellow, and not so much like pure green. So you can see, basically you can see through them. And yeah, I think I'm talking too much about lighting. But anyway, it's kind of an important thing on this piece, because you will see like the difference. So now I'm applying some detail on this house. I actually don't know what the shape of the house was going to be at the end, but I'm trying to apply some detail on it. And you can see that some of the columns of and the structure of the house has brown, and the part that is kind of like shadowy is more like a blue or purple, dark purple color. Also, I did like a little bit of orange color on top of the house, just to have the idea, just to make you believe that maybe there are some leaves in there that are dry. And there's a very nice detail that I picked up by practicing and looking at pictures of environments and stuff like that. So notice how I put a little bit of gray, bluish gray in some parts of the rock, where I believe it will reflect the color of the sky. And also, if you haven't noticed, I'm working in kind of like a square. I make a dark layer. Basically, it's just a black layer on top of everything, and then erase like a little bit more than a quarter of the image, and then just paint inside out. Obviously, they are in different layers. You have to keep this separated from the painting. If possible, just make one layer for this, and your painting will be like 2 layers below, and everything is blocked, so you don't have to, you don't make any mistakes. But basically, what this does is, for me, is that I can concentrate in just painting this tiny part alone, without having the distraction of painting everything else. And that gives me a lot of control, first of all with the time that I'm using for the painting, and also for the detail, because I only have this amount of time to paint this part. So I better do this quick, so I can put all the stuff that I want to do in that time. Sometimes I do 20 minutes, sometimes I do 25 minutes, depending of the piece. If it's something for work, I could do like 1 hour per square, because I need way more detail. But then the paintings that I do for work are even more like they are bigger. Sometimes you just need more time to put more detail on it, because when you get closer, you're gonna be seeing all these details. Okay, so right now I'm putting a little bit of blue color on everywhere that I think it should reflect light, and then I tone down that color because I did it in another layer. So basically I just paint everything where I think should have reflected blue light from the sky, and then I decide how intense that will be, just changing the intensity of that layer specifically. That way I keep my painting safe. I don't mess with everything else on the painting. So right now I just turn that quarter of space to work with. I just turn it to the other side, and now I'm working on this side of the painting. And I believe I did like just 20-25 minutes in this part. So at the end I did like a detail pass, which was like 25 minutes, 4 times 25 minutes is roughly 100 minutes. Well, actually it's exactly 100 minutes. So that's about, I think, let's see, almost 2 hours, because 2 hours will be 120. So almost 2 hours of work to detail the image. So you can kind of get a sense of how much time does the image take to do. And this is basically like the half of the process already. So you can see that the whole process took me at least 3 hours or something like that. So that's a good time, I believe, for a painting. Obviously it's not exact. Let's say it took me 4 hours, but because I do it like in different days a week, it actually took me like 7 days to do, because I didn't do it exactly 4 hours straight, you know what I mean? For work, that would be appropriate to at least do 2 paintings per day, or two concepts, depending on what the subject is or the detail that it has. At least for me, there's a good amount. If you do a third, you could. I've done that. Like, I have to do that sometimes, but that one is going to suffer a bit in terms of detail, or because of time. But also depends on what technique you use, because sometimes I've done the last concept that I do for work in the day is maybe done with some of 3D. So then my mind is not like painting, and my hand doesn't hurt the same when I do 3D, because I'm using a mouse instead of a tablet. So, and then when I do the painting part, it only takes me a few minutes, because the most of the job is done because I use some 3D on it. And it's completely valid to work like that, especially in normal work, because you have to be as fast as possible. Or if you want to take some time, you better deliver something really good, because if it's rejected, which is something that is super normal in the working as a concept artist. Actually, I believe that the job of the concept artist is to be rejected as possible, because that means that you're doing your job. Obviously, you're gonna try to do it good, so they don't reject it. but sometimes it's just trying to find the idea, the right idea for the project. And the only way to get to that idea is to get rejected, because when you get a rejection, that means that that's not the way to do it. Just do it another way. Alright, so now I'm putting a little bit of details on the waterfall. And for this I'm using a way smaller brush. Sometimes you can just go back, like for example there I was putting a lot of green, and then I erase it. Well, actually didn't erase it, I just painted on top of it. But I was feeling like I was doing too much green in there. Didn't make so much sense of what I was doing, so I kind of just painted on top. Now I'm working what the lower right part of the image will be. It's the only thing is that I switch a lot to left and right, just to keep my mind less bored. And actually sometimes it really helps to see the mistakes when you turn your image that way from left to right, and also like the other way around. It's really helpful. Keep things interesting, and also you can spot mistakes easier, especially when you're drawing characters. I haven't put characters here in the channel, but I will, or at least I want to think that I will do that soon. And I mean, you can see a lot of mistakes, like anatomy mistakes. Composition is most of the time. You can see the mistakes in there when you turn your image like that. Also, something happened once. I was using like a brush, had a little bit of tilt on it, and when I turned the image to the other side, when I flipped it, what happens is that my whole image was tilted, because I was painting with a tilted brush. I know it sounds weird, but that exactly that happened, and it was so strange, because I was like, but I didn't felt it when I was painting it. But now that I'm looking at it, it's obvious. It's so obvious when I look at it the other way around. So that's why I use that technique a lot. Just flipping the image all the time, just to spot these mistakes, or to see if maybe I can see something I didn't see before. And we're coming to the end of this tutorial actually. Now I'm applying a little bit of changes in terms of color, because I want to pump those purples and blue colors. I put a little bit more saturation on it. And this is it. This is the final image. I really hope you like how it looks. And this week I'm sharing the work of Gleyber Prieto, which is a fellow artist. He's in the Share Your Art group. If you want to follow him, you just can look the image that he uploaded in there, and it basically represents what's going on in my country right now. It's a crazy place to be right now, same as other places in the world. I know there's a lot of more problems going on at the same time in other parts of the world. Maybe more important, I don't know. I always had this feeling like what's happening in my own country is really bad. I'm not there right now, but I can totally feel and see what's going on by social media and stuff like that. So if you want to help him out and follow him, go ahead. There you got also my links from my Instagram and my Twitter. You can follow me if you want to ask me anything. You can ask in YouTube and Twitter and Instagram. Just know that maybe I will respond late. That's something that happens, and I don't have any control or of how soon I can respond these messages. Sometimes I take a few minutes of the day to respond, maybe 10-20 of them at the same time. Sometimes I can't, but I definitely will. Thank you very much, and see you next time.